Welcome everyone. This is our second guest speaker event. Today we have Emmanuel, the founder of CardPointers, one of the most popular apps to manage your credit cards and help keep track of all the rewards, all the categories, so you are never missing out. So please give him a very warm welcome.
Hello everyone, great to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Sean. Really appreciate it. Apparently there was a kerfuffle with the attendance form last week, so hopefully everyone's got that. Go ahead and skip to the beginning. So quick introduction. I started CardPointers back in 2019. I am an indie developer, bootstrapped entirely, and just kind of built things from there. My parents are French immigrants, hence the last name, and we used to travel to France a lot growing up. It was always an economy, always. And back then, it was when there was actually people smoking in the back of the plane, which was super unpleasant because we'd always have the cheapest row all the way in the back right in front of them, and it just reeked, and I always hated cigarette smoke. But yes, very far from glamorous. So except for 2 times, we managed to get upgraded to business class. One was, for whatever reason, my mom went in and she checked the bags and everything, and I think the guy was maybe flirting with her, which is a weird way to flirt because, you know, she's got 2 kids and her husband there. But we ended up having business class, which was amazing. I was like 10, I think. So all of a sudden I had this gigantic seat and the little amenity kit, like all these things blew my mind. And I was like, this is amazing. I hope I can do this one day, legitimately. Very important, don't be like me, because the second time I flew business class was a few months after 9/11 when flights were starting to resume again. There was no one on the plane, and I was flying from the US over to France. And I was one of the last people on the plane, and I figured, well, the entire business class row is completely empty, like the entire section. And so I was like, oh, well, these are nice big seats again. I figure I'll just sit down and see what happens. So I sat down in business class, and much to my surprise, they didn't check any manifests or anything, I think because there were so few people, and they actually just gave me like some champagne, and all of a sudden I was settled in and flying business class again. So that was fantastic. So that was the only 2 times I flew business class up until about 5 or 6 years ago, when I really got into this credit card hobby, whatever you want to call it, but travel rewards and using credit cards to help you get points and everything. So yeah, I studied computer science at Northwestern, and then actually left the US, and I was racing in Europe for about 5 years. And going on to the next point where I'm saying don't be like me, if this clicker works. Sean?
I'm not sure why this is happening.
I can use the keyboard otherwise if you want.
Is the presenter one not working?
No, it stopped working.
Is it working?
Oh, yep, no,
Okay.
it's good. All right. Yeah, so software engineering was my backup plan from being a racing driver, which is not the best plan in the world, so I probably wouldn't recommend that either. This is younger me. And the other mistakes that I made was I had no idea how to use credit cards. I had basically 2 credit cards when I moved over to France. One of them was a Freedom card. I had no idea about the 5X category, so I never activated them. So I got just 1 point for every dollar I spent. I didn't believe in flight redemptions. Every single time I tried to book a flight to France, I could never actually get anything that made sense. It would be like $1,000 in taxes, which was more than like the coach flight, and it would use points, so that made no sense. So I ended up committing the cardinal sin of cashing out all of my Chase Ultimate Rewards points at 1 cent a dollar, and I thought I was doing great. And that was a lot of points back then that I just completely wasted, just out of ignorance. After the racing dream, I moved back to the States, and then I worked at various startups over the last 10 years or so. And I kept after this idea of finding a way to improve tracking your rewards points to get more points for every dollar that you spend, and just to be able to travel for free as well. That was really important to me, and there was really nothing at the time when I started CardPointers that was in that space anymore. So yeah, I failed and failed and failed until I finally got something that actually got some traction starting back in 2019 with CardPointers. So a few rules to live by that I like to always go over really briefly. I'm sure you all know all this. Sean's done a great job of teaching everyone these basics, but treat your cards like cash is super important. If you can't pay it off, don't charge it. Treat it just like a debit card or cash, and you'll be fine. You literally get free money with every single purchase, right? So be that cash back or even better, points and miles for travel. There's no reason not to use a credit card. You also get extra protections as well. If there's any kind of, something that breaks, if there's some fraudulent use, you're protected with a credit card. You wouldn't be with a debit card or cash. So credit cards are also really good in that regard. Always pay off your credit card in full or before the due date. You certainly don't want to carry any of the crazy bank APRs. That wipes out all the savings of this wonderful hobby and any advantage that you would get otherwise. So the way I like to think of CardPointers and a few other apps that I'm going to talk about is outsmarting the banks. So the banks intentionally make credit card rewards complicated. They don't expect people to take a class about this and learn how to actually use your cards properly. At the end of the day, you could argue that we might cost them like a bit of money, but they're still, as long as they just make money on the interchange fees, that's still good money from them, for them rather. And a lot of upsides for all of us. New card sign-up bonuses. I know Sebi was on last week, and I know he talked about a few of those. And that is a great way to earn a lot of points right up front and in bulk. But a kind of longer strategy once you get a lot of cards. I'm up to about 30 cards myself. And so finding new cards and opening new cards is a lot more trouble these days. So there is churning, and there's that whole thing that you can pursue on Reddit and other places. But I found a ton of value in just maximizing your rewards per point on your normal spend. Specifically, there are a lot of cards that make it really easy to earn 5x across a lot of different categories. So that's generally been what I focused on. For the most part, I don't really buy anything that I'm not earning at least 4x or 5x points on. And that's through a number of ways, which I'll be covering here as well. Premium cards, a lot of people are kind of afraid of cards with annual fees. For the most part, you really shouldn't be. Just make smart decisions about it, analyze the benefits that are there. A lot of cards have more credits, credits that are worth more than the actual annual fees are. So it's really easy to offset that over time if those are benefits that you would use anyhow. So it's a good way to look at cards with no annual fees. Both are really good. You can do a no annual fee card strategy if you want, but I find it best to kind of mix the two. Especially a free card, those are great to keep in your wallet forever. There's no reason to ever close them. Keep your credit score high, your utilization low, average length of your credit history, which makes up your credit score. That's all really good, so you always want some good free cards in your wallet too. And the other point is Amex offers. It's kind of underutilized. Amex in particular has really good offers. Chase and some of the other banks less so. Those tend to be kind of $2 or $3 off. But Amex will have some offers. They had one last year that was really popular. It was Best Buy and Home Depot. They both had buy something for $50+, get $50 cash back, and you could do it twice. So, I mean, that's not very hard to find something that you might want for $50 and basically get it for free. And all you have to do for that is activate the offer on the Amex site or through the extension, which I'll talk about briefly. And you get those savings. So it's a really good thing to take advantage of and get even more value out of every single one of your credit cards. Just to give you an idea, 1 year of category rewards, if you're using 5x for a few essential categories and 2x for some other ones, that basically computes out to 108,000 points over a 1 year period with fairly small spend. Rent is really small compared to California, but you get the idea. So 100,000 points just by using 2 or 3 of the right credit cards for stuff that you would spend anyhow. So it adds up a lot. And if your spend increases, obviously, multiply this out, but it really adds up. So a few other ways to get even more money out of all of your purchases. Gift cards are great. And this is also really underutilized. There are a few credit cards in particular that have high multipliers. So the Chase Ink Cash gets you 5x at office supply stores, which I think most students probably wouldn't think is very useful. Office supply stores tend to be more for businesses, but in fact, they have a really good row of gift cards. And you can buy gift cards for anything. You can buy Visa gift cards, which are just straight up cash. There are often deals where those net out to zero cost. So you buy a $200 gift card, you get 1,000 Chase points. Really nice. So you can do that a few times. You can buy gift cards for anything, for restaurants you go to, for airlines, that kind of a thing. And similarly, supermarkets are also great. A lot of cards have 3x, 4x multipliers, and they have the same type of selection of cards. So it's always good to kind of think outside the box to get even more value out of everything that you spend. This is what I mentioned before about the $50 back for various offers. And yeah, really, most people concentrate on Amex, but it's worth exploring the other banks too, if you have those, and they have some interesting ones. There's also rewards portals are a great way to add some extra multipliers. A lot of times they'll have, there have been some times when I had plus 10x or plus 15x for Apple purchases for other stores. So whenever I'm online, I tend to look at cashbackmonitor.com. And Rakuten is also another big one that used to be Ebates. And they have an app and extension that you can install too that helps you keep track of all these things and find some extra savings as well. Honey is also a great way to just save straight up cash. They've done a really good job at kind of blowing up in the market. Hopefully you all know about it. But it automatically applies different coupon codes at checkout, and that helps you save money right up front too. So the other part, earning points is essential, but then you need to do something with them. So redeeming points, just like earning points, intentionally the banks, airlines, hotels, they make that really complicated. They don't want people to take advantage of it. Just like 20-year-old me made all those mistakes, cashing out my points and everything, it's for exactly this reason. You need to learn all of those different programs and learn kind of the essentials there to make sure that you're getting the most out of the points that you earn. Otherwise, it's really easy to waste a lot of them and to also pay a lot in fees and taxes, especially for airlines. They like to get you that way. So it's really good to know those options. So yeah, one way is learning these transfer partners and making sure you're getting amazing redemptions. Typically, it depends on the transfer partner, but those are the ones that are most valuable. I'll show an example here of where I got over 6 cents per point. There are some people who get 10 cents, 20 cents, I mean, really crazy multipliers by booking really good flights or hotels that could go for a ton of cash, but thanks to points, kind of unlocks that whole thing. Yeah, it's a bit of an art form. So it is complex. There are some things you should learn inherently. Once you've booked like a few flights to particular places you like to go, you kind of learn to look there, so it'll make that easier. But there are also some other options to help you out with that. Flexibility, I think Sebi had mentioned this as well. That's really key. So if you can book out far in advance, or if you can book out last minute, strangely enough, that kind of works out the best, especially if it's 1 or 2 people. I've had a lot of luck booking the last few days before. Basically, I think the airlines are trying to block out that award space because they want to sell it, because they sell for $5,000, $10,000, crazy amounts. And then at some point they give up and they just want people to fill the seats. And so then they'll collect your points, and that's where you can get these kinds of crazy redemptions. These are 2 sites that I really like, Award Hacker and Award Mapper. And they both tell you the basic how many points you need for different flights and hotels. And that's really helpful. So you can kind of start to plan out a trip and know how many points you need to save up through your different credit cards. There are also paid services that help you actually find and book award flights. One is called Point.me, which just launched about a month or 2 ago. It used to be called Juicy Miles. There's also Award Logic, which is in that same space. And there are also a lot of services online that offer as kind of a booking concierge. So you can actually pay them, it tends to be like a few $100s, tell them how many points you have and what programs, and then they'll do the hard work of trying to find like flights to different programs and trying to get you the cheapest redemption. So that's not a bad way to go as well if you're comfortable paying someone else to do that. But generally, it's better to try to learn these things for yourself and try that approach first. So this is one of my favorite flights. It was Paris to Dubai. Following my own advice, I booked last minute. It was 2 days before New Year's Eve, just before 2017. That was about a $4,000 flight at the time, so about 6 cents per point, a little bit more than that. There's free chauffeur service, which is amazing. The lounge was incredible at Charles de Gaulle Airport, like a great food selection. The service was amazing. And then the kind of craziest part is I had actually booked just business class, and because it was New Year's Eve and there were very few people, they actually upgraded me to first class just as they were scanning my boarding pass. So to say that that was a pleasant surprise would be an understatement. This was Emirates first class with the A380, which means that there is a shower on board, and the biggest bathroom I've ever seen in an airplane. It was crazy, and there were only 2 people aboard the flight. So I literally could have taken as many showers as I wanted to. They limit you otherwise to, I think it was 4 minutes of shower time because they have limited water capacity. But yeah, it's pretty crazy to end the year in a shower aboard a plane. So one of those things that points unlock that there's no way I would ever spend the money on doing that, but it's a fantastic experience. So 2 of the main apps that I use to help maximize points, Award Wallet has been around for a long time. 2004 is when they launched. And they are incredibly useful for helping you keep track of all your points as you earn them. Another way that airlines and hotels like to kind of help beat you at this program is they'll expire points, and all of the programs have different rules about that. Some will expire your points after 12 months, some after 18, 24, etc. Reward Wallet will actually link to most of these different programs. They support 682 programs. And they'll actually warn you before your points are set to expire, before you have some offers that expire, that kind of a thing. And what's really nice about them too, there are a few other services that do this now, but they are the only ones that actually take security seriously. You do not have to store your credentials on their servers. You can store them locally in your browser, in your app, which is great. So you need to always be really wary about sharing your credentials with anyone else because pretty much everyone gets hacked. And then they have access to all your accounts. And in this case, they do link to things like Chase. So if someone were to compromise your Chase account, then they have access to all your money if you bank there as well, not just your credit cards. So it can be pretty scary. And then the other one is CardPointers. So that's the app that I built. It's an app and a web extension. It works by just adding your cards by name. I don't know if, how many people have used the app out of curiosity? So yeah, for those who haven't, go into some more details, but you just add the cards by name really quickly, and then it has a database of about 5,000 credit cards that are supported. And just by putting the names of your cards, no bank logins or anything, it actually knows the reward categories for all of your cards. It'll know recurring credits, all the Amex and Chase credits that happen, the monthly credits, annual. Those all get populated immediately as soon as you add the cards. And it's a pretty cool onboarding experience. So for those of you who haven't downloaded it yet, it is available for an iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Android, Chrome, Mac, pretty much everywhere that you'd want. Here's a quick screenshot of the different devices. I have the good fortune of being featured by Apple pretty much every year of the big release since 2019. Lately, it's been apps we love, great apps for iOS 15, and must-have Safari extensions. And the Safari extension, I'll go into some more detail as well. But the whole idea behind the app is to just help you get more points every single time you make a purchase. Also help you activate offers, keep track of offers, and really just help you kind of beat the banks at this game. So this is a quick example of how to add your cards. This is the onboarding process. It's really similar between iOS and Android. It starts off, you can just filter by bank, or you can type in the name of your card, and you just tap it to add multiple ones at once. And then as soon as you're done, it basically populates the dashboard that you'll see to the right and all the other tabs that are down there. Like I said, there are 5,000 credit cards, knows everything about them. There's also support now internationally, so it works for Canadian users, UK. There's a good number of cards with good rewards over there, but primarily it's the US market thing, credit card rewards and these kinds of things. And like I said, for bank logins, I don't collect bank logins at all. very privacy and security focused. I don't want that put anyone else at risk. I wouldn't share my credentials with somebody else. I wouldn't ask that of my users. So that's why it just works by account name, and the extension gets really fancy to avoid sharing bank logins, but still giving you a lot of good use. So this is probably the most popular feature, which is the Pointers tab. Here it breaks down all the credit cards that you have. We'll break it down into 18 different categories and several hundred subcategories, and also has a database for thousands of different merchants. So it'll actually categorize all those merchants and help you use the right card to earn the most points there. The Pointers tab is where you would go if you were out shopping, for instance. You could pull out the phone and look at the Pointers tab. Say you're at a gas station. You can just tap on gas station, and it tells you which card to use there to earn 3x or 4x or whatever from all the cards that you have. It also supports rotating categories, which are one of my favorite things when you actually activate them, unlike 20-year-old me. There, you can get 5x points from free cards. You get 5x cash back. So the Chase Freedom, the Discover It card are kind of like really good, sweet cards to hold on to forever. And those change every quarter, so it can be a little tricky. Sometimes people don't want them because there's that little bit of extra work. But if you get into the habit of checking the app or using the extension, that's all automatic. So it makes that whole process much easier. It's really automated. You can also manually track. Here it's showing 5x grocery stores and eBay. That was actually the previous quarter. But you can actually track the amount that you use to help you make sure that you maximize full points that you can get back from that. Speaking of the Amex offers that I talked about before, again, the banks like to make things really difficult and complicated for users. So what they've done to kind of discourage people from using Amex offers is they hide it behind a single-click solution. So every single offer you want to add, you have to click add to right there, activate offer, activate offer, activate offer. So if you want to activate all the offers that you have, it's really cumbersome and it just kind of wastes your time. So the extension that I built, which works on Safari and also Chrome on any other computer, will automatically pull in all of your offers on Amex, and you can activate them all in one click, and it activates all of them and then syncs them back to the app. And so it does all this without your bank credentials because it kind of comes in, it kicks into place after you've already logged in, and none of your browsing data is ever shared with anyone else. It's just meant to help this system out. One other really important thing to note is that Amex offers, the recurring theme is that the banks are trying to make things hard for you. One thing that they do is they only ever show 100 offers at a time. So most people who use Amex offers, they think they only have this number, there aren't any more than that, and that's not true. So what you really want to do is activate all of your offers in one go. As soon as you activate 100, it'll then load in a fresh 100, and you can kind of keep doing that. The idea being, if you use the extension and you just activate these offers in bulk and don't really pay much attention to them, as you're shopping online, it'll actually surface those offers in a little bar at the bottom of the website to tell you that you have an offer. My girlfriend who's sitting over there, she actually was buying oysters for Christmas and was on a Fulton Fish Market, and it turns out she had added some offers through this way, and I think she got $50 off a $100 purchase, all just because she had activated the offers and just happened to be shopping online with the extension active. So that kind of thing happens a lot if you kind of follow this strategy for Amex offers. So these are the shopping pointers I just talked about. It has a little floating bar at the bottom of the website, which you can expand, and then you can see your top 3 cards in terms of reward categories for whatever category that merchant's at. And you can also see your offers in line right there as well. And if you open the extension pop-up, you can see all the information for all of your cards and all of your offers. You can also self-categorize websites or update them. If there is some site that's not supported, you can just click on the extension and then you categorize it right there. And the next time you're back on that site, it'll tell you which card to use there automatically. I call it, think of it as kind of like Honey, but for credit card rewards. So instead of just saving cash through coupons, it's helping you get more points for every single purchase that you make. Got ahead of myself a little bit. So like I said before, for authentication, that's all handled before. There's nothing that leaves your device. There's no browser history that's shared or anything like that. It's all cached locally. It updates once a day to the server, but doesn't send your browsing information. And then there's just does a quick lookup as you're browsing a website. If it's a site that it knows about, then it tells you what it is, but doesn't share that information. And then the last cool feature that I was going to go over today was location reminders, which is new as of last year. What's really nice about this is most people have their kind of typical gas station, supermarket, and those places that they go to. So instead of having to pull out your phone to check which credit card to use there, you can actually just program this while you're in line, for instance. You can just tap on the More button and then add location reminder. And then when you're back at that location, automatically it will pop a notification on your Apple Watch or your iPhone and tell you which card to use there based on your current category rewards. So you can literally just look at your wrist if you've got a watch on, and it tells you which card to use as soon as you arrive there. And that makes it really easy to just make sure you're always making the right choice and getting 5x points versus just 1x point. Same thing, kind of recurring theme is that very privacy focused. So all the location stuff stays entirely on device. It uses Apple's built-in geofences, so everything just stays on there, never shares lat long or anything else or any kind of usage information. And you can also add addresses manually too in the location reminders. And there is a free pro access. There's a free tier and a pro tier of CardPointers. It's the same download, but all of the decal students have free access to pro. There is a link in the announcements channel in the Discord. If for those of you who haven't downloaded it yet, please feel free to do so. Yeah, you get 3 full free months. If you need to try it out longer or whatever, feel free to shoot me an email. Always happy to help out. Yeah, that is the main bit. There's some questions anyone has about anything. Could be credit cards, app. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so Emmanuel, I really like your concept. Is there any way you can take this far? Like, I'm sure you've been asked this question multiple times. Why can't we just have maybe an NFC app that automatically, like, if you make a purchase, it'll automatically classify the merchant and then choose the best card accordingly from that?
Yeah, so there's the Curve card that launched in the UK, and they're coming to their, I guess, they're in the US a little bit, but they don't have, I think it's Visa they haven't partnered with, so they're partnered with MasterCard and Discover only, I believe. So that's exactly what they want to do. There was a card called Wallaby about 8 years ago or so who was doing that kind of a thing, but I'm not sure exactly what the complications are there, but the banks, they don't want to play ball.
Is there any way to do it on, don't make a new card, but just make it maybe use some APIs or whatever that Apple has released with the Apple Pay or with the Google Pay or whatever, maybe store it there and then have just a card go after it identifies the merchant?
Right, yeah, I'd love that. Every single year I have an Apple session at WWDC, and I always ask them for that. I always have a call with the Apple Wallet people, and there's nothing, no. Yep.
I would say your app is one of the most beautiful apps I've never seen. Pretty well built.
Thank you.
Utilize the Apple's ecosystem pretty well. So what was the biggest obstacle for you to make this kind of app and ask for people to use it? Your challenge, what's your challenge?
Yeah, so the biggest obstacle is probably just getting people to use it, honestly, in the beginning. I launched it first as a web app to kind of experiment with the idea. I was using it internally, used it for my family because I got them kind of hooked on the credit card game, but then they didn't really know which card to use. They weren't keeping track of that stuff. I would print labels for them with a label maker. I'd mail them new labels every quarter when that would change. But I ended up getting phone calls at weird hours asking, oh, I'm at the gas station, which card should I use? So I have to stop working and then look up their account and then tell them which card to use. So I launched this web app, which kind of as a proof of concept. I launched it primarily on Reddit, to the credit card subreddit. And it actually got a really good, a nice welcome. Got a good few hundred users on the first day. And slowly kind of evolved from there. But generally just getting kind of the word out there is the most difficult part, I think. I've been an iOS developer since the SDK came out, pretty much. And it's been my biggest passion, on the engineering side. So it's been really fun for me to build out. Yeah, that's the biggest thing, I think, is just finding people to actually use the app, and then keeping up with cards and offers. Like I mentioned, it supports 5,000 cards. There's no API that kind of provides you access to all this. So it's a ton of manual labor, a lot of scripts. There are like some APIs with some banks and partners that update some information, but keeping all that stuff in sync is also, it's a ton of work. So it's another big part of it. Sure. Yep.
Do you ever think banks or even other third-party companies are going to crack down on this, or is this too small like a niche for them to not really care about? Like we're only one classroom out of like one small pocket of the area. There's every single person almost has a credit card. So do you ever think like this will become a problem for banks?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a problem for banks. It is definitely a niche. You know, it's a healthy niche, but for sure it is one. What we're doing is not, you know, we're not like defrauding the banks or anything like that, right? I mean, like they set the rules and we're playing within their rules. Yeah, there are people who take advantage of it. Like I mentioned churning before, there are people who manufacture spend, which is a whole other thing. And like that part, you know, the banks would be upset with, but just, you know, knowing which cards to use, I don't think they're going to be that upset with it. And ultimately the banks make a lot of money in interchange fees. So they want you to use the cards. They just don't want you to use them quite as well as we do. But I don't think that's enough of a reason for the banks to really be upset and to try to go after it and shut these kinds of things down. So I don't believe so. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
So in the beginning, I remember you talked about like developing like several different apps for card pointers. So I just wanted to ask like how's your experience with that, and like how did it like eventually lead up to card pointers?
Sure. So it was a few different variations of the same kind of idea. I got really hooked on credit card rewards around 2013, 2014. And so I launched one app back around then with a friend. It didn't really go anywhere. It picked up like a few thousand people, but then it just kind of flatlined. So we ended up shutting that down. I then kind of repurposed a lot of that for Facebook bots when those were, I thought those would be popular, but it turns out those went nowhere as well. And so yeah, I just kind of kept trying different iterations of the same kind of idea. But I think back then I was making it too complex with the bot aside. But instead of trying to connect into lots of bank accounts and that kind of a thing, that ended up being a security issue, especially if things have evolved and people have become a lot more privacy conscious. You know, myself included, I would no longer want to do that. So at the time it was okay, but less so now. And so I kind of like canned the complex part and stuck with the basics. And that first version of the web app was basically just, it just showed you the pointers in your cards. And you just, you know which card to use for different categories, but like that was it. But that was enough. Like that's what people wanted. Like they wanted to just know which card should I use for this purchase to maximize my points.
So there's just like a lot of trial and error involved.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think starting simple and then building on top of it is a good approach for most things. So that's what ended up working well. So I started off with those pointers, and then after that, built on top of that the subcategories and then offers. And the extension has really helped things take off too, because it's a really kind of concrete way for people to see how much money they're saving by actually seeing like, oh, I'm going to save $20, and this is all thanks to the extension that I pay a few bucks for. So.
Did you start with the extension or the app?
No, the extension is new. That just came out last year with iOS 15. So that was new for iOS 15 and Safari. And then I ended up building kind of a proof of concept that I launched as a Chrome extension while I was building that out to test some things out. iOS was that's where the most users are. So I wanted to make sure that experience was good. So I did an experiment with Chrome, but people were liking that. That was just activating Amex offers. And then I brought the shopping pointers over to both of them. And then that was kind of a really nice spot for folks.
Thank you for your response.
Sure. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you studied computer science in college. So like how much like CS was involved doing the app? Like you need a lot of coding knowledge to build an app from scratch?
Yeah, so, well, computer science degree is interesting. I've always been into computers since I was like 5 years old. I was kind of playing around with my dad's computers. He had a home office, and that was just kind of my thing. So the computer science degree didn't necessarily make a big difference for me, other than some database classes. So what I use probably the most often, but otherwise it was just kind of fun, honestly. And it was just doing stuff I enjoyed anyhow. But there's, yeah, I mean, a lot of programming involved. I'm a solo founder and I'm doing everything myself. So, I'm programming all the apps, I'm managing like the business relationships, I'm kind of doing everything. So it depends on the day. Like some days and some weeks will be just head down and code for a lot of hours per day. Other times I'll be coding less because the apps are at a better spot now and they're pretty stable. So I can focus on other things like marketing, business development, those kinds of things. But yeah, for any kind of app, it's still like a lot of actual coding and yeah, getting your head down into the code. Yeah. Yeah, so when I started, there wasn't anyone in the space really. So to your point earlier about it being a niche, like it definitely is. And so one of the interesting things is that the people who have been in the space before never last very long. They'll normally last about a year or 2 years. And that's because their cost of development is very high, and it's hard to monetize this kind of space. A lot of people who are into travel rewards, they don't want to spend money. So asking them to spend money on an app is a hard sell. The way a lot of companies monetize it is through credit card commissions, but that's a hard sell too because people aren't applying for credit cards every day. So it's a lot of money through those credit card commissions, but it's also kind of a rare occurrence. So that's why ultimately, if companies have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's going to be really hard to make that back, especially the upfront development costs. Now there are a few more competitors. There's none that's really privacy focused. None of them has like an extension and is this well integrated into offers. And honestly, none of them really care as much about security and privacy as I do. So it's a big differentiator. It's something that a lot of users appreciate. Yeah, sure.
So you mentioned buying gift cards at like office supply stores. Are you concerned with any shutdown risk with gift card spending?
So don't go too crazy with it. I think if you avoid it, Amex is kind of the one that kind of cracks down on that stuff the most. I think if you're doing a lot of it, like a few thousand to meet minimum spend, that can be an issue for sure. The way I do it personally is, like a few hundred like here and there. If there's a savings on some gift cards, I'll buy like two $200 ones. And that way it's just like, an easy few thousand points for Chase. And conveniently enough, my apartment is like 1 block away from the Staples, which is where they always have the free ones. So that was a nice little benefit. But yeah, so far I haven't had any problems, any kinds of shutdowns. I don't do any kind of crazy manufactured spending or anything. For the most part, it's normal spending. It's just smart spending. So making sure I'm earning, the 4x and 5x. But yeah, as long as you don't go too crazy with it and they're reasonable expenses, I don't think it's going to be an issue. Yeah.
Do you ever see this, like having 30 credit cards as a problem? Like in your credit report, I'm not too familiar with it, but like if you apply for a new credit card, don't they see like, dude, this guy got 30 credit cards, man? Like it isn't like 31. So is that ever a problem?
So it depends on how they're spaced out, right? I mean, if you're getting 30 cards in a year, that's going to be a huge red flag because you're probably going to bail and leave the country with all your credit and you're a goner. But if it's built out over time and you use them responsibly and you're paying things off properly, the more credits you have, the higher your credit score, which is contradictory to like what everyone thinks off the bat. I think Sean has talked about this as well already. But honestly, like the more cards you have, the higher your credit goes. Like my parents were like 700 something, now they're over 800 because I kept getting them credit cards. And that's because of the way the credit scores are calculated. You're using less of your credit at any time. You got even more credit history. It's actually really helpful. So another thing, the 30 credit cards, I use the app to help manage it. So it tells me when there are annual fees that are due. You got to stay on top of it. So ultimately, it's just across like 4 or 5 different banks, so it's pretty easy to maintain through the apps. Yeah, otherwise it's kind of nothing but good things that comes from that. Annual fees can rack up. If I showed my CardPointers app, I have like $2,000 annual fees, something like that. But most of them I call pretty much every year, and I ask for retention offers. And if I don't get them, I'll downgrade the card to a free version, and then I'll keep the free version because it's good for my credit history. But it's a good way to make that cheaper and keep getting perks out of it. Yeah.
What credit card did you what was your first credit card and like how many do you have right now?
So my very first credit card was the Discover. I got that, I think, college time. yeah, probably like 19 or something. Then I had some horrible Cap 1 card. I can't remember what it was, but basically because I got like a free jug of water. Stupid college decision, but I was like, I really want this like little plastic jug of water, so I applied for a credit card. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I applied for credit cards in a hurry before I moved to Europe because I wanted to be able to like purchase things there and not have any problems with the card getting shut down. And so I got 2 or 3 other credit cards then, including that Chase Freedom that I mentioned, which I've had now for like 20 years, and I love that card. The rotating categories are just my jam. Like 5x points is awesome. Yeah, so that's kind of like my Discover and the Freedoms are the oldest ones that I still have, and now I've got I think 28 or 30 cards right now.
This is a slightly off-topic question. So you said you graduated from Northwest with a CS degree, right? Like, I mean, just props to you, like going through the startup path, following your passions, doing all that. It's all great. But like, how did you, when you were first coming up, how did you like weigh the difference between going to like some FANG company or whatever versus actually pursuing a startup, pursuing your passions, and really going after that? And how did you like make that decision? What was like that thought process like? And how did you know that you'd be able to continue doing this?
Yeah, so part of it was I graduated in 2001, so it was right after the bubble. So that kind of limited some choices, but regardless, I didn't want to go into that. I wanted to pursue racing. So I figured I've got a good education behind me, like this is something like that I know and enjoy. So I can always go back to engineering like down the road, but I want to pursue like this life path and see if it can go to where I want it to go. My goal back then was Formula One, and that's what I was set on. Like I grew up watching F1, like that was my thing, and I just wanted to pursue that, and I loved racing cars. So yeah, knowing that I could have that fallback option was really helpful. I think had I not gone to college or I dropped out of high school to go racing, that's another matter because that would be a lot more difficult, I think. But it was a good fallback option, and no regrets there to pursue that. It was a little tough coming back after racing to then kind of get back up to speed. I ended up kind of postponing getting like my first real job till I was like 26 when I came back from racing. So that was a little strange. But other than that, like it's tech. I mean, if you skip out on something for like a year or two, you miss out on a lot. So it takes a while to get back up to speed. But then after that, you're back in it and keep going. Yeah.
In your opinion, what is the most underrated card that you currently hold?
Most underrated.
There's a lot of cards to think about.
I mean, I don't know if it's underrated, but like I said, like the Freedom cards, like any of the 5X category cards, I hear from a lot of people that they don't want to bother with the rotating categories, and I just don't get it because it's so easy. And it's an easy 7,500 points like every quarter. So, and that adds up a lot. I mean, to my example before, it's easy to get 100,000 points just by, by having smart spend. So I'd say that's probably that. There's no kind of like magical card that I have that no one else knows about. There's a few really good ones from like credit unions that really fly under the radar. There was a Ducks Unlimited card, which is the weirdest card ever, but they used to give 5x on gas, and they've kept that grandfathered in for people. But like those types of cards are really great, and you're never going to see them in blogs because there's no commission to be paid. And most of the blogs, they make their money off of that. So for those credit unions, there's almost never commissions for cards, so you're not going to see them there. But if you can find out about them, and one way I surface those in the app is there's actually a recommended card section. So in every category, the pointer category, there's at the bottom there'll be recommended cards. You can also tap on the More button and then see recommended cards, and that'll actually pull in the entire database of cards and tell you which cards have the best category rewards. So if you're someone who really drives a lot and gas is crazy right now, so if you want to focus on that, you could see like the best 3 cards or however many cards you want that are focused on gas earnings, and you could get those that way. And that's the kind of thing you would never find in a blog because they're just not going to cover it. So, yeah. Yep.
I think as a follow-up question to your cashback, or like your idea of how cashback is actually really good. From my perspective, at least right now, I don't spend that much money to earn a significant amount of cashback. So for me, it seems like more effort than it's worth. Especially like, at least right now, we have like a couple credit cards that give like about 2-3% on certain categories. Like, it doesn't add up to much. So, in your opinion, is it really worth putting the time and the effort to go and find these specific cards for specific different uses and rotate the categories, only to have to spend so much in order to get the rewards in the first place?
Right, I mean, I would never want someone to spend money that they wouldn't otherwise spend, right?
Sure.
So I'm not gonna like whip you and tell you to spend like $1,500 to max out, the 7,500 points. Like that doesn't make sense. I would say like if you're spending less, then maybe I would focus on sign-up bonuses and stuff then, because you'll get more value out of that, right? If you spend, I mean, even like the Freedom, using that as an example again, it's only a $500 minimum spend for 3 months.
Sure.
So if you're a really low spender, and you can manage 175 a month, you can still get like a nice, 20,000 points out of that. So that kind of thing is more worthwhile, I think, if you're spending less. But for like the other things, like once you have those cards, then just be smart about them and use them the right way, and then you'll get some extra points for free. So why not? And that stuff does add up over time.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What is
One
one thing about the credit card industry that you want to change?
thing about the credit card industry that I want to change. So having also, I do have some, I get some commissions off of credit card signups as well. I push those in a really like natural, organic way. It's always objective. And so it's based on best rewards and like the best deals for folks. But the banks and like their partners have this kind of crazy amount of control over those affiliate links. If you do anything that they don't like Chase, for instance, has really weird rules. Like you can't post any social media with the word Chase in it, or they'll kick you out of the program. So that kind of thing is really annoying. So I think from like an industry perspective, like that's one thing that I would love to see changed to make that a bit easier and kind of be more modern with the times. I mean, if you can't even post about it on social media, something really happen anymore? I don't know. Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is like too much like a sensitive topic, but like how does this type of app make money? Because like do you guys like run ads, or like is it based mostly like from the membership fee, or is it like from like commission for like referral links? Like just do you mind like just sharing more about it?
Yeah, sure. No, the primary way that it makes money is through the pro subscription. So what I've done is, I launched in 2019 with a free tier. Back then there was like no monetization at all. I didn't monetize until November 2020, really. The original thought in the beginning was credit card commissions. Have people using the app, and again, organically recommend certain cards based on what you're looking for and what kinds of things you want to spend on. So that was kind of the simple business model. Then, so I launched the app in 2019. The iOS app came out in September 2019, and then COVID happened really quickly right afterwards. And not a lot of people were signing up for credit cards. Most of the banks cut those commissions, so that was really not a sustainable business model anymore. At the time, I was still building out features and just kind of focusing on user growth. But then once November came around, that's when I kept having people ask me to build a tip jar into the app because they wanted to give me some money, which is so weird. And I'm like, I want to, but I don't want to take the time to actually build that because I have like other features I want to build to help people. But I mean, I should want to get paid, but it was one of those weird like indie developer things where like maybe you don't feel like you deserve to get paid or something. So I don't know, I just kept punting that off until November. I finally launched this pro tier. And then I thought to myself, well, I have to give people something for the money that they want to give me. Like the tip jar is okay, but that's not going to be a lot of money. So have a pro tier under a subscription. Because recurring revenue, it's all the rage, and it makes a lot of sense for this type of app because there's constant updates for cards and offers. So I kind of scrambled. I was like, okay, what can I put in there that would be of value to people? So the first iteration of that was a customizable dashboard. You could change like the colors of things, and it was more just to kind of show your support for the app. And as soon as I went live, like with that version that didn't offer very much, I had a sale within like 10 minutes. And it was just from people who had used the app for the last year and a half. And like I ended the day with, I can't remember, it was like $100 or something, but it kind of blew my mind. I didn't think that I was going to get money from it. And back then I kind of hid like the fact that there was like a pro tier and stuff. And so as that's evolved, I don't have any shame anymore in actually saying that there are pro features that cost money, and I've always retained that free tier. So people who use the app in that first year and a half, all those features that existed back then continue to exist completely for free for existing users and new users. I've been a big proponent of treating your customers the way you want to be treated. So if I was using some app and then they take away features behind some paywall, I'd be upset, and I don't want to do that to users. So I've kept all that stuff free, encourages people to use the app. There's been really good word of mouth growth as well. But now there's the pro tier, and then there's also the credit card commission. So that's a part of it as well. But for me, the purest part is the pro subscription. People give me money because I'm providing them a service, and they're making more money than it costs them. It's that simple, and it's really easy math for people to do, especially with the offer stuff. They see that it saves them money. Yeah.
Have you ever thought of or ever like tried breaking into like launching your own card? Like now we're seeing the rise of many different like fintech startups, right? And then like with a lot of these issuing platforms like Marqeta and whatnot, it's becoming very, very easy to go and launch, right? We also are seeing like interest rates are at all-time lows. Consumer American debt is at all-time highs, right? People are financing credit card stuff at like 17%, and you can take a loan from a bank at like 3 or 4%. So there's clearly some kind of opportunity there. Now you have like a solid user base as well. So have you ever tried leveraging that user base to go out and start something?
Yeah, I tinker with the idea for a little bit. There's a Cardless, which is kind of, right, yeah, they're built around like that whole space. So I did reach out to them, but they weren't looking to kind of expand to, if I'm not a major sports team or anything, it's going to be a little difficult. But yeah, I kind of toyed with the idea. I wanted to know what that model looked like. That could be interesting. But I mean, right now there's still enough stuff I want to do in the apps and extension space. And there's some exciting stuff like with AR coming up that I think would make a lot of sense as well. So my roadmap is kind of, it's ever growing, as is my to-do list. As I build stuff out, I kind of get more ideas. I get a lot of user feedback, which I love to get. So the Reddit community is really good, but a lot of users just email me directly. There's something that that they want to have added to the app, something I never thought about, and it kind of helps shape like the app and where I want to go. But yeah, that could really be interesting as well, and something down the road. Another thing is doing bank connectors properly. Right now, that doesn't really exist. Even if you look at Plaid, they were embroiled in a huge class action lawsuit because they were storing credentials and they're just pretending to log in as you. People don't realize just what they're doing with their credentials. And there's a competitor of mine is even worse than that. Like they're storing every single credential that way, and people just don't know, and they don't really share that information. So it's scary. That's why it's good to like ask these kinds of questions. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I was thinking, remember thought. So yeah, so long term, what I would love to do is good bank connectors. So have a read-only tokenized version. So you actually authenticate with that bank and get proper read-only tokens, so you can't do any damage. And that's the way to do that kind of thing. And that would be a natural evolution of the company down the road. But I need to be able to do that right and establish those relationships with banks, and especially all the credit unions and the hundreds of banks. I think it's over 1,000 banks now that I support. That would be a Herculean effort, but something that I could see the company going towards in the future. Any other questions? All right.
Okay, thank you all for showing up. Yeah, I'll see you all next week. Thank you.